రాజస్థాన్లో పుట్టి ఖరగ్పూర్లో చదువుకొని మ్యాప్మైజినోమ్ అనే సంస్థకు ఫౌండర్ చైర్మన్ గాను ఇంజనీరింగ్ ని సెలెక్ట్ చేసుకుంటారు. ఫిజిక్స్ ఎంచుకోవడానికి కారణం
Ghosh, who was my teacher, he was also very good in terms of how do you inspire somebody.
ఒకవైపు ఫిజిక్స్ నుంచి మేనేజ్మెంట్ వైపు వెళ్ళి అక్కడి నుంచి బయోటెక్ వైపు మీరు టర్న్ తీసుకున్నారు యాజ్ అన్ ఎంటర్ప్రెన్యూర్.
Okay, human genome project is getting completed. So then we looked up what is all this.
जन्म कुंडली जन्म पत्री से जीनोम पत्री.
In many ways, understanding your genome is to understand how were you wired when you came to this world, right?
జర్మన్ కంపెనీని కొన్నామని చెప్తున్నారు. అంటే ఇన్ ఆర్డర్ టు ప్రొక్యూర్ అక్వైర్ టెక్నాలజీ. అంటే కొనడం అనేది నార్మల్గా టైఅప్ చేసుకుంటారు, టెక్నాలజీ ట్రాన్స్ఫర్ చేసుకుంటారు. కొనడానికి కారణం
ఇప్పుడు దట్ వాజ్ వెరీ ఇంట్రెస్టింగ్. 2005లో ఉంది. 2005లో కంపెనీ వాజ్ ఫెయిర్లీ బిగ్. ఇట్ వాజ్ పబ్లిక్లీ లిస్టెడ్ కంపెనీ. వీ వర్ స్మాల్ కంపెనీ. అప్పుడు దే గోయింగ్ టు బికమ్ అవర్ బిగ్గెస్ట్ కస్టమర్. సో దే కేమ్ హియర్, దే సెడ్, you guys are doing great work. We want you to do a lot of development for us and all that. So that's fine. We then realized that we were not, suddenly they became quiet. They were going to give us $1 million at that point, which was big money for us. And they are not responding to our calls and all. Then they called and said, our company is going through financial problem. Do you want to buy it? I didn't understand fully, but I said, yeah, sure, why not? Right? It was more a natural reaction just at that point. Then we looked at it. We thought it was a great opportunity to be able to, one, bring technology in, and two, to be able to sell in other markets. So we bought the company. They had labs in US, Bangalore, and Europe. Then we were able to build all of that simultaneously. Adi first acquisition. Tarvata we did two more, one in Netherlands, one in the US. Those acquisitions were very helpful, Adi, because you learn a lot in an acquisition. You learn not only get technology, not only get markets, but you also learn how to manage global teams.
Father entrepreneur kaadu, he is an educationist. You studied physics, you came into genomics, you became an entrepreneur. ఆ ఎంటర్ప్రినర్షిప్లో ఆ రోజుల్లో టెక్నాలజీ దొరికితే చాలు అనుకునే పరిస్థితుల్లో యూ వెంట్ అహెడ్ అండ్ పర్చేస్డ్ ఏ కంపెనీ దట్ ఈస్ గ్రేట్ ఇన్ ద టెక్నాలజీ దట్ యు ఆర్ లుకింగ్ ఫర్. సో ఇవన్నీ కూడా ఒక రకంగా చూస్తే యూ టుక్ సమ్ డేరింగ్ స్టెప్స్. సో ఎక్కడా కూడా మీకు అరే ఇంత నేను పెడుతున్నాను, నేను కొత్తగా స్టార్ట్ చేస్తున్నాను, ఇది టెక్నాలజీ కొత్తది, ఈ దేశానికి కూడా కొత్తది, ఈ దేశంలో మళ్ళీ మీరు ఇందాక చెప్పినట్లు యాక్సెప్ట్ చేస్తారా లేదా తెలియదు, రిటర్న్స్ వస్తాయా రాదా తెలియదు. అటువంటి పరిస్థితుల్లో హౌ యూ కుడ్ టేక్ దోస్ డెసిషన్స్? అంటే వాట్ కైండ్ ఆఫ్ సపోర్ట్ దట్ యూ గాట్ ఫ్రమ్ యువర్ ఫ్యామిలీ?
Some support from the family, but it was also, I think, a decision that we felt was very important. And it was a great opportunity for us. The following year, we got IFC to invest in the company. And then we got another private equity to come in. So, but first acquisition chesetappudu, we had to bring that capital up ourselves, right? So there was some that came from the family and some that came from otherwise. But it was quite an interesting time. We were in that process of doing many acquisitions. But at that time, I think it was 2008 kuda ochindi majjalo, right? So the financial crisis, and that stopped us from going to the next level over there. And in some ways, I felt that maybe we would have continued and stayed on for a little bit longer. The time came, right? Similarly, I think for a lot of entrepreneurs, you go a lot of ways, there are a lot of hardships, but if you stop thinking you will get to the next thing, when you stop, sometimes that opportunity is there for you. So I think it's very important for people to realize that, you know, any entrepreneurship journey is going to be difficult, especially if it is new. But the road at the end of it, now you can see everybody is talking about genomics. So I think there is a time, it takes time for any new thing to come in. But as an entrepreneur, you have to persist. Right?
So that means you took the risk, you break the rules, and you acquired the things, you invested in it, now you are getting the results. So from 2012 to 2024, if you see, at 2024, where you actually stand in the domain?
Consumer side, where people can directly place an order on our website, and we started with that. We are the largest in the country. We are also the lowest cost across the world, right? So that's a huge thing for us, and which is why we are looking at other markets now, starting with Canada and US. And we realized that we could have probably done much faster if we were to be able to raise a lot of capital. So I think now is a good time for genomics. It's a great time for people to finally start, you know, understanding, because hospitals are now becoming very interested in this. Hospitals are now saying that, you know, this has to become part of preventive health checkups and all that. So I think it took a long time. It was not an easy journey, but I think it has been a very fruitful and very satisfying journey.
మీ ఎంటర్ప్రినర్ జర్నీ ఇదంతా కూడా మనం ఇప్పుడు తెలుసుకున్న తర్వాత కష్టాలు, పెట్టుబడులు, గోయింగ్ అక్రాస్ గ్లోబ్, ట్రావెలింగ్, మీరంతా యూ హ్యావ్ టు స్పెండ్ మోర్ టైమ్ ఆన్ దిస్. బట్ ఎట్ ద ఎండ్ ఆఫ్ ద డే యు ఆర్ ఎ మదర్ అండ్ ఎ వైఫ్. So how your family, so little bit about the family, how they supported you?
And I think that more than daughter-in-law, I think my mother-in-law is like a mother. So she's a doctor. My father-in-law is also a doctor. Both, I mean, and more than anyone else, I think my mother-in-law has been instrumental in managing the whole family. So even though she's a qualified, you know, person, she practiced, but I think for the last many years she worked, did a little bit of entrepreneurship herself, but she has been more managing all of us. So that has been the best part. I think best decision to move back was to be able to come into a home which is educated, which is supportive, which also has interest, and everyone is interested in starting businesses and doing things of their own as well. So it's a great family to be in. It is important that you know, we forget that our structure in India is very, very important, because, you know, at a time when you are busy, grandparents take care of the children, and I think that gives them a double you know, ability to be able to manage and work with their cousins and everybody else. So I think it was great, because if you live in the US or in India or in some other place, you are in your own little island, but here you get a support of full family.
So what is your observation about Hyderabad culturally, and then moving forward in your particular area, genomics?
So culturally, I think it is a much more educated set of, I mean, people do find that education is important. People also find health is important, and I think that's very good in compared to many other cities. So I think Hyderabad, when I first came here to now, I think there's been huge change culturally, I find.
You are studying their genetic structures also. So what kind of difference that you find in Telangana exclusive to
So there are
Hyderabad?
2-3 things, right? I think one is that we do find that a lot of consanguineous marriages are there, right? Which means that you do have people who come up with a lot of genetic defects come because of that. And that awareness is still, it's now getting there, but I think that we see a lot in Telangana. You find that if you marry outside, the chances of perpetrating that problem becomes lower. So if you think about what happens, recessive genes that like you have. Now if you are from the same family, the chances of you having that same mutation is high. And when you then have a baby, that can become a problem, right? So that's why I think even though some people might think you are marrying in the same family, you are retaining wealth, you are not, but your health is going. So it's very important that that knowledge or that awareness gets spread, that you have to first do, and there are tests now available, right? You can find out if there are mutations that both you and your partner or future partner might have. So you can match that before you are actually planning to have a baby.
That is the one,
one
aspect
thing,
that
thing
I
feel.
found big in
But-
Telangana.
But it's also that I think in Telangana there's awareness on things like NIPT and others, and that's why we have so many hospitals here, right? I think if you look at just the number of people who are set up hospitals or the number of doctors, I think we have the largest number here. And I think it is because of the education levels that are there in Hyderabad, and of course enterprise quotient. So Hyderabadis are naturally, I think, entrepreneurial.
So genetically, other than these reasons, if we want to say Telangana has this unique feature or these unique disturbances and so on. So what are those? Because you have been doing research from in this particular part of nation.
So we want to, I think on an average we did find that things like diabetes and others are there in terms of your risk profile. But it's also about the kind of food we are eating, and I think that's now people are getting more aware. They're changing that food habits. So genetics is like, I think people need to know that it's important to know, because then you can change. When you know your first marks, then you are able to change.
We'll go a little bit about the food that you are talking about. What kind of food that you find is problematic to Telangana? What they are eating, what is creating problem for them?
So there are 2-3 things. I think we have if you look at the traditional dishes, I think there was a lot of rice-based dish, which is fine. I think it depends on the quantity of what you're eating, right? If you're eating less, we also used to add a lot of ghee earlier, which was not a bad thing, right? We now reduce the fat content. Then there was a lot of carbs, and I think that becomes a problem. So I think, but different people react differently, right? There are some people who can't metabolize a fat, some people can't metabolize carbohydrates well, and so on. So it's important to understand that. And there are obviously some very good habits as well, like the yogurt and others. But there are other things that I feel maybe we need to look at what you are eating at what times, right? How much food we are eating is also important. So I think more how do you replace like the high carb food with things that are less in glycemic index and so on. Those are important. So you might find that you will have a lot of stomach problems and other things. And eventually, even though you reduce the amount of lactose, it'll start to show up. So I think it's important to understand that many times your gut problems may be through things that you never thought were a problem, like milk or otherwise, right? So those are things. Then there are problems like celiac, like your gluten intolerance. So some people are very well aware of it, but many others don't know that simple thing like a roti might be a problem. So those are the kind of things I think we find that lactose intolerance is fairly prevalent. We find that there are some people who have gluten problems, and similarly other things.
See, now as you said, there are certain things which you find being a scientist and researcher, and you have grown, your company started doing well and all these things, and at the end of this story, what you give back to the society. Mapmygenome tarapuna gaani మీరు కానీ మీ కుటుంబం కానీ చేస్తున్నది ఏమిటి? ముఖ్యంగా మీరు హైదరాబాద్లో ప్రధానంగా మీ బేస్ ఉంది కాబట్టి ఇక్కడ చేస్తున్న కార్యక్రమాలు ఏంటి సొసైటీకి తిరిగి ఇవ్వడానికి?
So there are 2-3 things we do, right? And I think most of the work we are doing is ultimately helping people, because if your health is improving, everything else improves. But we did 2-3 things. During COVID, we distributed a lot of the COVID test kits. I think about 1 million of those we did. We also did a lot of funded a lot of studies. COVID appudu. We published also, but we did fund that. Ippudu we did a longevity study. Study dwara we gave lot of free tests to people, and similarly now we do many other places. In fact, I've been wanting to do where I can take a whole village, the village Tiskoni. I want to say how do we use genetics to improve the overall quality of the village, but I've not been able to find the right person to be able to get me that opportunity to help them. So I think those are kind of things we want to do, where we can use some of our testing capabilities to do good for others, for a lot of people who can't afford it. And most of the times I think when people come to us who can't afford tests, I think if we can, we make it either as low or sometimes also give it away for free. So I think we do want to help. In fact, everything that we do, we know impacts people. We know that our clinical portfolio is, a lot of times people who can't afford, only many of them have a problem, and how do you make it easy for them, right? So we work with a lot of some of the government institutions and others. But there is one more thing that we are doing, which is to create awareness about these things. So we created like a full, they can go to our website, go to learn.mapmygenome and get information about anything they want to know. And that we want to convert also in Telugu and Hindi and others, so that that knowledge is easily accessible, because your financial condition shouldn't be a problem in terms of accessing information. So I think those are the kind of things we have done. We will continue to do more such studies, and hopefully find the right opportunity to get people to use this technology for good.
So my last question is, I deliberately kept this as a last question. You said you are trying to find right agencies, right government departments or right organizations. హైదరాబాద్ బీయింగ్ అంటే మనకి హైదరాబాద్లో మొట్టమొదటి నుంచి ఫార్మా బయోటెక్కి సంబంధించి చాలా బేస్ ఉంది. అది ఐఐసిటి ద్వారా కావచ్చు, లేదా సిసిఎంబి, సిడిఎఫ్డి, ఈ సంస్థలన్నిటి ద్వారా. ఇది ఒక ఆస్పెక్ట్ రీసెర్చ్కి సంబంధించి. రెండవ ఆస్పెక్టు, ప్రతి బిజినెస్ మెన్కి గవర్నమెంట్తో పనిచేయాల్సి ఉంటుంది. మీరు కూడా సిఎస్ఐఆర్లో మెంబర్గా ఉన్నారు, నాస్కామ్ మెంబర్గా ఉన్నారు. ఈ సంస్థలతో అంటే మీరు కూడా కొత్తగా పరిశోధన ఇక్కడ స్టార్ట్ చేసినప్పుడు ఆల్రెడీ అప్పటికే ఉన్నాయి, 60s నుంచి ఇవన్నీ ఉన్నాయి. సో ఈ సంస్థలు మీకు ఎంత సహకారం అందించాయి? ఈ ప్రభుత్వం వైపు నుంచి మీకు ఎలాంటి సహకారం అందింది? ఈ రెండు అంశాలు ప్రధానంగా ఒక ఎంటర్ప్రీనర్కి ఈ రెండిటితో పనిచేయడం అనేది, ఇవన్నీ కూడా ఎక్కువ ప్రభుత్వ సంస్థలు.
మోస్ట్లీ నేను యాజ్ అ గవర్నింగ్ బోర్డ్ మెంబర్ ఉన్నా, అండ్ ఐ థింక్ సిఎస్ఐఆర్లో ఉండేటప్పుడు ఇట్ వాజ్ రియలీ ఐ థింక్ యూస్ఫుల్, బికాజ్ sometimes there is a big trust divide between academia and business, right? And that for me was eye-opening, because you see both sides. You are able to talk to scientists, you are able to understand your point of view, and then you are able to build those connections. That was useful. So for me that was very helpful. I think also gave me an opportunity to meet like the late Prime Minister Manmohan Singh ji and so on. So I think it was, those were the kind of things that I really enjoyed. That one, it was to be able to work with the best academic minds. I've worked with some of the best people who now are, some of them are on my advisory board as well. So those were the kind of things I've done. I've not done anything else much with the government so far, but I would like to. I think there is an opportunity to do that, because we've been able to bring the cost down quite dramatically. But unless we get it to the masses, it's difficult for everyone to see the benefit. And for that, I think ultimately government has to be the one that we can reach out to. So I think that's where we are. I would like to do it.
మీ ఎక్స్పెక్టేషన్స్ ఏంటి గవర్నమెంట్ నుంచి?
Try in one village, right, for instance, and they'll see the benefit of that, right? They'll see that there is value in terms of how you implement these medical opportunities for them. So if you, for instance, find that in that village you have a lot more prevalence of a particular disease, or you have a particular type of nutrition deficiency that is there, I think you can plan your government schemes according to that, right? You can plan how do you build healthcare facilities for them if you know that, you know, people don't respond well to a particular medication. So I think that's what I'm seeing, that it can become a baseline for governments to be able to then see the value of it, and not just in terms of, you know, what you're investing will be very low compared to what you're spending in terms of the actual healthcare cost. But in order to show that, I think it would be helpful to start with one and see that there is value. So right now individuals understand it, hospitals understand it, but I think for the government to understand, they should see how much they spend on a yearly level versus how much they will spend, because this will be once in their lifetime. So I think that is an important thing that I wish there's an opportunity for entrepreneurs to be able to get to that.
సో మీ ఏదైతే కోరుకుంటున్నారో అది ప్రభుత్వం కూడా వింటుందని, ప్రభుత్వానికి చేరుతుందని ఆశిస్తూ, భారతదేశం నుండి విదేశాలకు వెళ్ళి ఏదో చేయాలని ఆశించే వాళ్ళకి భిన్నంగా భారతదేశానికి తిరిగి వచ్చి భారతదేశంలో సరికొత్త సాంకేతిక పరిజ్ఞానాన్ని తీసుకుని వచ్చి దాన్ని ప్రజలందరికీ ఈరోజు అందజేయాలన్న తపనతో సాగించిన ఈ మొత్తం ప్రయాణం ఎందరికో స్ఫూర్తిదాయకం. ఎంతో బిజీ లైఫ్ గడుపుతున్న అను ఆచార్య గారు సమయాన్ని తీసుకుని మన కార్యక్రమానికి వచ్చి ఎన్నో విషయాలను తెలియజేసినందుకు వారికి కృతజ్ఞతలు.